to have slides like this. Yeah, thanks, Sam, and everyone for inviting me here. I'm from Dyn.org. Some of you may know this organization. Hi, Adam. Thanks for joining me. Adam is my colleague also at Dyn, and yeah, we are a community-based organization. We've been around for about 20 years or more in the Linux scene, and especially in the audio and video. For a while, I worked on a streaming program. A few people remember probably Muse, the multiple streaming engine, which shares some homonymy with another MIDI program of the early days of Linux. We rewrote the first graphical interface. At the time, Icecast was there, and the Livecast by Jack Moffett was the only client. I was happily superseded by many better written software, namely Dark Eyes, and finally Liquidsoap came. So that's how I got to know it. And as soon as I saw Liquidsoap, I thought, okay, this is the right approach to the problem, and I started using Liquidsoap and stopped developing my software. So thanks a lot for relieving me from a burden and giving a great solution for streaming. I really like the language approach to it and the flexibility. Obviously, you have the community around, and it will grow, I believe. So at Dyn, we are specialized in community development. We do this in a number of fields, also for activists. Yeah, just as a quick introduction, these are most of the, like a quick glance at the fields that we cover. One of the pillars of the foundation, besides free and open source software and environmental sustainability, the third one is interdisciplinarity. So we try always to involve people with other disciplines and ourselves challenge in not only being geeks. Of course, we are geeks at heart. We are Linux hackers, BSD hackers. So my presentation will go on being way more technical. But yeah, just another quick glance on what we do at Dyn usually, and you will see into our projects. One thing that we really support, and I like to say it in every speech, is the campaign to reuse, refurbish, and repair. I think Liquidsoap is a great addition to this campaign. It is possible to make second-hand computers, and yeah, let it go with the 32-bit. I think they still need support. Stream online. Let's keep them working, because even though we may have access to the newest and latest and expensive stuff, in other places of the world they don't, but they still can download our software and run it on the machines that they have. So I really encourage you to keep backward compatibility. At the core of our work in the last 10 years is the concept of algorithmic sovereignty. So we really like open source, and I particularly name it because Liquidsoap, again, ticks a box in synchrony with our beliefs. The possibility for people to understand what they are running is very important. It goes beyond open source. It goes into the domain of understanding what are the rules that govern our lives. Nowadays, the algorithms are everywhere. I think Liquidsoap is perfect in that, because it produces a language that people, a DSL, basically a domain-specific language that people can use to stream online, to play with audio, but it's also helping people to really use language in a way that is productive and that is joyful also and playful. So really kudos for your software. At Dyn, we are part of a number of organizations. Of course, it's not only amateurish, 20 years old institution now based in Amsterdam. You see we are part of various organizations, namely also ISO groups for standardization, the Sovereign Foundation for Decentralized Identities. We are rolling out our W3C DID, and the Rome call that is promoted by the Vatican for ethical algorithmics. So here you find all our code. It's messy. We still publish on GitHub. We mirror on our own. And on the page of Dyn, you will find also the channels to get in touch with us through chats. I like to echo the first discussion that we had in the first presentation by Romain about switching to Discord. I think it is something to not see as white or black. We also opened a Discord channel. What we do is we bridge. So people wanting to use Telegram and Matrix they can still connect. But the effort of opening up to younger and bigger crowds is good, I believe. Also, if it's not pure as we would like, because often these channels are the only way to get in touch with young people. And what we want is not to just, preach to the converted, but really tell people what it is about, what we do. A larger audience. So we work a lot in the middle of situations. This is a cheerful photo of our last event in Hamburg, in Germany, where we did a whole project about circular economies with local fab cities. So we work a lot nowadays on circular economy, which is only partially related to what we do here. The project that I present you and I show you some of the uses that actually the Liquidsoap community brought forward is frei0r. frei0r also has a history. If you scan this QR code, it's going to link you to a blog post I made on Medium that tells a bit of a history. There is a lack of software history somehow, but it's worth reading and understanding where it comes from. It is a very collective effort. It's made of trials and failures. It's made of many developers coming together and fighting for a common format, eventually failing at that, and then finding in minimalism the best solution. So frei0r is born out of a header, C header, whereas we thought of a host program that would serve plugins, but no, actually the minimalism won. We came together through various approaches, because we had non-linear editors, we had linear editors, we had VJ tools, and simple people wanting to make magic mirrors out of filters. And at that time, there were like two main programs on Linux doing effects. FreeJ I was doing myself, and Effect TV by Kentaro Fukuchi was the author at that time. Some may remember. And many more software came out reusing the code through cut and paste. So we convinced a festival at that time. It was in Bergen in Norway. I talked to the director and convinced him to invite some of the free and open source software people to use the public cultural budget to invite us all in one place. This happened in 2 years in a row. So it's a successful format, I would say. I know also the Linux audio community have been doing it successfully through a number of meetings. And the format came out, as I said, through failures. One experience that I can share from that is that minimalism helps. Like when you have to find a common format, you have to give up to your dreams of features, perhaps implement them in your host application, and really narrow down to a minimum common viable product for everyone. And that's frei0r. So it's a minimalist API. It will not satisfy all your needs for a video plugin API. It's not fancy. It doesn't support hardware acceleration. It for sure has some it lacks some features that programs also complex as the complexity can grow in Liquidsoap can have. But it does one thing and does it well, and it's also more and more bug-free. So where do you find frei0r today, which was named, I believe, was chosen by some other developers, by the GFX team, because it sounds in German like frei0r, so it's like should be free. It is found in most distributions today. Some people call it bad plugins, like the GStreamer people. We also don't like GStreamer ourselves, so for technical reasons. But we got blessed by also the OpenBSD people trusting our code to be packaged in their application. We know how nitpicky they are. So you find it in BSDs and in GNU Linux. It's interesting, I think, that we got into the BSD world because multimedia there is less developed, but also because Liquidsoap being a headless software, I believe this makes it very interesting also as a synergy between us. So I like to just quote you. Basically, I didn't prepare for a live performance. I must admit my time is very limited. I have a 8-month toddler around, so cannot really play around a lot. I took up the maintenance of frei0r more seriously since I'm on a sabbatical this year, and I'm devolving some volunteering time to it. And by looking at the documentation and refreshing it, I found these examples on your manual, which I think are brilliant. And by now, I think they are the most brilliant use of frei0r plugins. So frei0r is also in FFmpeg. You can trigger frei0r plugins from FFmpeg if they are found in the path. The thing is that with Liquidsoap is much more direct, and you can also govern the parameters that every plugin has, which I will show you. But basically, I invite you to go look up the anonymizer on the Liquidsoap documentation, and please help me guess whom of you is in this YouTube video. I can't recognize the developer that has published this. It's a very short code. It's fantastic. I think it uses our pixelizer effect, which is one of the oldest ones made by the GFX developers, who are now Arch developers, and made it one of the early ones, and uses OpenCV to parameterize it around a face recognition pattern so that you can have a pixelizer filter. Now, I think it's very simple from our point of view as developers. Yeah, you put a filter and some parameters around, but if you look into the fact that this filter provides a function that can cost a lot of money for broadcasters to implement with proprietary hardware, then I think this is really brilliant in its own simplicity and direct way to work. So I like to dig into details later. There is another example in the Liquidsoap documentation that you can see. It is about controlling with OSC. With Open Sound Control, you can send a sort of MIDI signal over UDP. I'm sure you know, some of you know, and there are a lot of very interesting mixers that are software mixers that can send these signals also from a mobile phone. So someone controlled a VJ set, video set with OSC controlling live effects. This made me smile is precisely one of the applications that I used FreeJ the most. I used to VJ as a performer back in the days with gigs also in the Maria in Berlin. And back then, I also elaborated a setup in which the VJ would not be visible on the stage, and I controlled the live set from my mobile phone, drinking a beer at the bar without making people know who would be the DJ or the VJ. I think it's a brilliant thing to do, and I encourage you to bring more chaos and fuzz into performances around. Last example that uses our filters is the blue screen. This is also an old effect, of course. Some of you may be familiar with the Genlock on the Amiga. Basically, this sets up a transparent color, and we do this with some refined technique. And you can do it with Liquidsoap very easily. So Liquidsoap, it's becoming a pretty interesting tool for video. Now, maybe it doesn't have all these video functionalities, and but still I don't urge you to develop a lot into video. A lot of people that I know working with video, they use one thing for that. So people setting up a blue screen may have a video mixer, and then they configure a Raspberry Pi with a Liquidsoap that will do the blue screen, and will have other tools and other setups for that on the desk. So I think it's perfectly fine for what it does. And yeah, our blue screen now I will get also to the code details, but our blue screen is pretty good and well reviewed. So this is an example of how filters are. This is a JSON export of their format. You see that we have metadata, which is name, author, explanation, color model, frei0r version, and version of the filter. And then we have parameters, which are the most important thing to note for Liquidsoap users and hackers. I think after loading a plugin, making sure that you have a color model match or a conversion, then you will be playing with parameters and changing their values. Parameters can be of a few different types, can be colors or numbers. When coordinates, there will be X and Y or horizontal and vertical. Here you see the export in JSON, which I'm now packaging with the source version of frei0r, the export of the parameters taken from the binary plugin. So this is literally, these are the symbols that you DL open, and parameters is a struct with a variable length. In this case, you have a name, a type, and an explanation that you can show into your program or into your interface. And yeah, that's mostly it. I like to keep it open for suggestions and and for any Q&A following. One thing I like to say, what I think is valuable in frei0r is that all code is software, which some people say, oh, it's slow, you could use acceleration, 3D, but on a certain from a certain point of view, what we want is not to be the best in the industry, but to preserve also the C algorithms for filtering video. And we had a growing community of people that had also to do with video filters professionally through their career, and they are contributing their experience on details that many of us ignored. And this is made possible when, while using a language like C, a basic language that everyone knows and used in the past. So we are, our ambition is really to provide a reference implementation, free and open source, for people to learn how to manipulate video. And we are very happy that Liquidsoap supports it, because I think in the future, with some time writing some tutorials, we will take it as a reference point for running examples, because it's very, very convenient and more convenient than writing, of course, a C program linking OpenCV and all that, yada, yada, and checking that that devices are open. So yeah, kudos for that, and please keep hacking, and don't change too much the APIs, because we all have a limited amount of time to adjust them. That's also what I'm trying to do with frei0r. Oh, Sam, I can't hear you.
Sorry, nice would be nice. Okay, so thank you very much. I didn't know that somebody had a look one day at those videos in the documentation. Actually, so I'm quite surprised that you mentioned them right now. But actually, yeah, it's nice to see that. Yeah, so it was really nice to hack with frei0r, especially in the early days where there were not that many video effects available, and frei0r was a very, very good set of those. So yeah, thank you for this. So I can lower my mic a bit again, like this, maybe.
Yeah, I forgot to give some information. We have now 88 filters.
Yeah.
I think in the repository, maybe some more. I should update the website about that. And we have about 12 mixers. So frei0r differentiates between filter, so input, output, mixers, 2 input, 1 output. And also we have triple mixers. We have one with 3 input and 1 output, which are mostly useful in nonlinear editors.
And so maybe can you tell us what are the latest effects, and what are your favorite effects, like the new shiny ones?
I'm a bit boring about that. My favorite is curves. I think it went under a lot of reviewing, and it just like make color curves.
Yeah, color grading, these kind of things.
Yeah, and we fixed some one buffer overflow about a month ago. So the release 2.3 brings some fixes. These are nasty things. Nowadays I'm not doing DJing anymore, so I'm not using them from a visual perspective. I'm just looking at the code. So I can tell you among my favorites are those that share code libraries, and so start to build a little framework inside the plugin to reuse functionalities. And there are a few like Median that shares with some others, and they are very nice code bases. And nowadays I'm looking at them also from the point of view of ASAN filtering. I'm using the ASAN, which is a way GCC detects buffer overflows. So I'm going through them with a new testing suite that detects a lot more the buffer overflows. And yeah, I can't tell really what is. One is the nice. There is one for detecting green, the quantity of green. And someone wrote me that they are using it for drones to recognize forest from drought. So they do land recognition. Another one, but this was already in frei0r that I did, is absdiff, but it's right now deactivated because I wrote it in assembler. Was doing like absolute difference between frames. And back in the days, they wrote me from UK that in some hospital they were using that filter for visualization, medical visualization. And I asked them, like, why don't you use anything else? Because they could tweet, like the operator knew C, and he could really work with it. Pardon. So yeah, my favorite are nowadays the one that have very purposeful uses, and they always go beyond our imagination. So that's also good to have a conference like this to see how many people and how it's being used.
Yeah. So thank you. So is there any other question from the audience? Anyone wants to add or ask something? Okay. And do you get many contributions, or is it like both at frei0r but also at how is it called?
frei0r, the other program, no, it's not under development.
No, at Dyn.org. Or I mean, are you looking for new members, or do you have like a steady community? Or
we are open. We have quite some communities around projects. The bigger one is Dev1, which is a fork of Debian without systemd, which is a minimalist system. But there are projects that have more traction also in the industry. One project is Zenroom, which is a zero dependency crypto virtual machine, which is completely isolated from the environment. It's portable, runs in the browser, and we do a lot of cryptography with that, like securing messages and privacy. And yeah, right now it's open. Of course, we have a lot of channels for community, and about 20 of us manage to live of the work in Dyn, because we have also contracts from public sector, especially European Commission for research. And so we act as an institution right now, and manage also to create some sustainability for those of us who are more active in some projects. So yeah, we are open. Sometimes we are hiring even because we need really to look for people, but most of the time our community is so rich that the skills are there. And especially when people are in and out of some job, they can jump in and fill in some role. And for frei0r, the contributions are keep coming. frei0r is a really volunteer-based project. They keep coming very steadily, I must say, from the ecosystem. The most active project is KDN Live, which I think deserves a mention as, I think, the best nonlinear video editing. There are two. One is Shotcut, the GNOME one, and KDN Live, obviously, is KDE. They are both very good. They both use frei0r, at the core, because they use MLT, which is MLT is a framework for also a domain-specific language for video, and so it's a cousin of Liquidsoap. And KDN Live uses MLT. MLT uses frei0r. So through KDN Live, we get a lot of feedback. Like if there is a bug in a filter, we know it immediately, and it affects. Because unfortunately, another thing, if you want me to share some wisdom from this adventure, I would not do again a plugin library. There is one bad thing in this approach, which we all learned also in LADSP. I believe some people share my opinion, is that when you do dynamic loading of binaries, you share the stack. And if a plugin contains buffer overflow, your host application will suffer it. So it propagates the problem, whereas a process separation approach would not inherit the liabilities of the plugins. So I would not do it again, but we have it.
That brings me to a question that I was thinking of. Have you guys considered using WebAssembly for building plugins? Because in this case, it would be completely isolated from the stack, I believe.
Yes, Romain, I'm working around this as a proof of concept for now, because frei0r has an approach of sharing the same namespace for the function calls. So like update or init, it's the same in every plugin. And this makes it very difficult, because every plugin should be compiled as a WASM, as a single WASM file. So what I'm trying to do is programmatically change the function names and produce a static library, first of all, which also some programs would benefit. Also, KDN Live would like to freeze a certain and also import frei0r inside. Also, Windows users have problems because the plugin path is never right for some reason. FFmpeg users on Windows that want to use frei0r never find the plugins in the path. So one approach would be to make a static library that host applications can embed. So you freeze it at that moment and you have all the plugins. The size is not really a big matter nowadays. And then after that, probably do a WASM, because through WASM we can also showcase it on a website.
Awesome, thank you. At some point, I would love to see also Liquidsoap being compiled in WebAssembly, so that'd be interesting.
Cheers. Yeah, we have some experience with Zenroom, which is the VM that we do, is working very well in WASM. I must say we achieved a lot by transpiling WASM, but we use mscripten there. And in case of frei0r, I think our try should go through LLVM pure without the emulation of libc. And yeah, it's non-trivial, as you know.